Right, guys, I'm just going to get it going. I think we've got most of the familiar faces in here now and some new ones. I know last week probably threw some of you for a loop. So apologies if that was the case. I took a long overdue vacation with my family and we skipped the lunch and learn. And note to anybody who's doing a routine webinar, the Zoom updates, Google has definitely identified Zoom updates as promotions tab material. So I think probably, I don't know, let's just say 3/4 of the attendees did not get the repeat Zoom notification updates that they were supposed to get, letting them know that this webinar last week had been canceled. So apologies if you were in that majority, but we're back at it. We're going to stay with this each week. And I think today will be just a nice reentry. And again, just based on some things we've been seeing, mistakes mostly, that's what we want to identify and correct. And so we'll hop right into that. So today's agenda, we'll go into the social selling intro, the standard one for all of you who've been on this for multiple calls. We'll go through a couple of the updates that have happened since we last spoke on BN.Digital and BizNexus. And then I'm going to touch on integrated multi-channel campaigns. This is something that we've been working on internally with BizNexus and BN.Digital. And it's something that we've seen, especially with the uptick in activity in the business acquisition and sales space. We've seen people spending more money, getting out there, engaging more through July and August, really very much in a different spot than they'd been in the prior months when COVID started to hit. And we've seen people just spending money sporadically, right? Having a little bit of telemarketing here and cold email there and some phone calling here. And I just want to go through the importance of tying this all together, how to do that, and why it makes such a difference. Who am I? I run BizNexus. I run BN.Digital. BizNexus is our platform for on-market deals, right? Deals represented by intermediaries, businesses for sale. BN.Digital is our platform for all things deal origination, off-market deals, proprietary deal origination, for search funders, for private equity, for buyout, for business intermediaries. We focus on a process called social selling to incorporate that into our deal origination so that we build this comprehensive funnel to leverage everything online to bring in the real world relationships that you'd want to develop a deal flow pipeline. That's the point of all of this, is to get the business owners and the referral targets, the financial advisors, the accountants, the lawyers, anybody who can deliver your primary target prospect on an ongoing basis. You want to get them into your social networks, get them into your ecosystem, get them into your newsletter, and deliver messaging that's appropriate at each stage of the deal flow funnel, which is a concept that we talk about routinely on these calls. So the 5 stages of this process: it begins with optimizing your profile for your end prospect, right? Making sure that your LinkedIn profile, for example, is not all about you. It's not some sort of profile written in the third person about your own accomplishments. It's addressing the end pain points of your target prospect very clearly, so that they can instantly recognize that, and it's likely to convert. They're likely to reach out to you if they're ready for your offering. Targeting, we'll be talking a lot about that today. Not just targeting your prospects, but targeting your referral prospects, making sure that you're supplementing your target list with enriched data so that you can reach these prospects across multiple channels. That's, again, what we'll be covering today. Building up your network of those end target prospects and your referral prospects on an ongoing basis, nurturing those prospects, right? So you're first bringing them into your network and making them aware of what you are, what you offer, who you are, showing them your social proof so that you're proving your own credibility as somebody in your niche. Ideally, you're identifying yourself as a qualified authority in your particular niche, in your area. And then you're educating these end prospects, referral prospects, about what you do, how that solves their pain problems, right up to the point where they're familiar with who you are, they're familiar with your credibility, your social proof, they're familiar with your articles and everything that you put on your profile and your campaigns and your newsletter, so that you can capture them when they're ready for your offerings, so that you can convert, right? Those are all the stages. And again, these all need to be firing at the same time as you build up your social selling campaign, right? These don't necessarily happen sequentially once you have a comprehensive deal funnel in place. So the end goal of all of this is to get that real world relationship, right? We're in this environment of social distancing, and however you do it, if you lead with a Zoom or a phone call, ideally when you're sitting down with a prospect, they're already familiar with who you are, they're comfortable with your offering, they've seen your social proof, and you're not wasting time. You're meeting with somebody to talk about your process, to talk about next steps. They're very far down that funnel by the time you're actually engaging them with a process like this, if you're doing it the right way. Now, updates on BizNexus Bn.Digital. Really quickly with BizNexus, if you're logged in, with the referral link, everything, we had a little confusion about how many credits and what you get, et cetera. If you're using your referral link, right? If you go into your BizNexus and you click on referral program, you all have a link, and you can share that link with your colleagues. And depending on what type of user you are, you're going to get a bunch of free stuff, right? You'll get a month of the free premium subscription, and you'll get, if you're a business intermediary, you'll get a free boosted listing, you get a free boosted profile. When you get those credits, when you're logged in, you're going to see those right here. You're going to see your subscription. You're going to see how many free boosted listings you have. You're going to see how many free boosted profiles you have. That's all going to be right here. So that hopefully will clarify that for everybody. BN.Digital, big news there is we're going to be launching our deal origination hub. That's going to be coming. We're bringing on some beta clients this month, and we're planning to launch that formally next quarter. But basically, it's your entire automation funnel through the conversion phase. So full CRM, sales functionality, marketing functionality. We're going to have automated drips in there and templates specific to the area of business acquisition and sales. So it'll be very plug and play, and it goes along really well with what our agency has been doing, I think, a really great job with to date, which has been kind of the top of the funnel, targeting, messaging, bringing the prospects in. Now this is going to handle everything all the way down to the bottom of the funnel. So we're really excited about that. And that blends nicely with the integrated campaign topic that we have today, because that's why we built this. We saw a need, we see a mistake being made in the industry over and over and over again. So hopefully this will help solve that problem. BizNexus.com, BN.Digital, that's where you can find us. So today, again, integrated campaigns, we're covering everything, right? This really covers the whole process. It's not specific to one stage of the social selling process. So repeat mistakes that we've been seeing that have really been a part of committing to launch this new deal origination hub that we're launching for our agency, and to get more involved with mid to bottom of the funnel processes with our clients. We're constantly seeing disjointed marketing efforts, right? Random acts of outreach, random acts of social, random acts of you name your marketing piece, especially since people have kind of come back into the market and they've started spending more in July. There've been more transactions. People want to make sure that they're filling their deal pipelines for the next year. So what we typically see is we'll see someone has a preferred vendor for drop notes, and they'll send out drop notes, and maybe they've got a telemarketer on hand, and then they have, if they're doing email, they'll have that separate from everything else that they're doing with the social, with LinkedIn, with Facebook, and then they'll have phone. It's all over the place. And what that winds up resulting in is wasted time, wasted money, and typically horrible results, right? Why is this relevant right now? In this environment, you really need to focus on touching and familiarizing your end prospects with your offering, with who you are, across multiple channels, right? It's now more important than ever to make sure that you're doing this consistently in a methodical, strategic way, so that your prospects who would otherwise have the chance to meet you at an engagement or attend one of your in-person presentations, or sit down for the cup of coffee, if you're a business broker focused on a geographic area where you could just drop in and have a chat and look at the business and talk about that. That's very hard to do in this environment. So this is a great solution for not replacing that, but for certainly filling a big portion of the gap, making sure that by the time you actually get that meeting, which is harder to get now, the in-person meeting, that they're already very familiar and comfortable with who you are, and they know what you do, and they should be one step away from engagement, ideally, if you're going to be meeting with them. You want to make sure that you're getting the right ROI. You want to make sure that you're not duplicating your efforts. You want to make sure that you're not wasting time, and you do that by integrating your campaigns, right? So the typical process that I just touched on, where you have multiple vendors and none of this outreach is necessarily coordinated, and maybe you're tying it all together with a spreadsheet, or you really don't track what's going on until somebody becomes a clear prospect. You know, if you're a business broker, someone who actually wants to sell their business, maybe you don't actually start tracking what you've been doing with your outreach, where they've been in your outreach funnel until they hit that point. That's wrong, right? And it winds up being a mess if you're building a business over time. So, you know, the way we like to do it is maybe if you want to lead with a drop note, which is effective. I always talk about how much I hate drop notes because there's no data there. But if you start with the right list, you can send a drop note. Maybe you then follow up with an email introduction, right? So ideally you follow the drop note with something that's trackable, right? Something like email, where you're introducing yourself and giving them your best contact information with a short note that reiterates your value proposition, or maybe a quick giveaway. Something, again, to stay with the business broker analogy, if you have a giveaway, 5 steps you need to be thinking about before you put your business up for sale, something along those lines. You can touch them with that, follow up a drop note with that contact info, quick, concise, introduce yourself. And once you do that, they're in your email funnel, right? So if they don't open, you can resend to unopens. Ideally, if you have the right program in place, you can keep resending to unopens. And then you can take the people who have not engaged with your email campaign, or you can take all of them, depending on what type of campaign you're running, bring them into your social campaigns, right? Get them into your social networks, get them into your LinkedIn, your Twitter, to your Facebook. So if they haven't responded to the email messaging after sending out the drop note, then maybe you approach the stragglers and bring them into your social funnel. And then for the people who still haven't engaged, then you're approaching them with the phone call, the traditional phone call, right? The telemarketing. So you're touching them across channels, but you're not spamming them. You're not harassing them, because you're tracking. And if someone has opened and clicked the email, that's a different type of prospect than somebody who just never opened the email, right? You can touch the person who never touched the email on social. And then if they don't engage with you on social, you can call them. And as far as they know, as far as your end prospect knows, you're reaching out for the first time when you actually connect, right? So you need to do this strategically across multiple channels. Again, this is what we really like to see, and it's what, unfortunately, especially in the business brokerage world, 90% of the people are not doing, as far as we can tell. Whatever campaign you're running, whatever process you have, once these prospects get warm, once they're familiar with who you are, get them into a newsletter, right? You want to stay top of mind. The importance of a newsletter, it really can't be underestimated. Even if a prospect does not open your newsletter, just seeing your brand come into the inbox on an ongoing basis, right? If you have the right title on the email, it's a reminder that you're out there. It's a reminder you are who you are, you do what you do. And if that's combined with seeing your social posts on a regular basis, whether they click, like, comment, doesn't matter. If they see it, it's reinforcement, right? And so you're bringing them down the funnel, you're making them more comfortable with your value proposition. How do we do a multi-channel campaign? It's all about data, right? It all starts with your prospect list. So for everyone who's out there just buying a list and going with it, maybe, but for the most part, that's a fail, right? Because you need to make sure that whatever prospect list you start with, you need to enrich it, right? And there are so many data providers out there that can help you do this, where if you have a name or an email or a company, you can get their social, or if you have their social, you can get the name or the email of the company, or vice versa, et cetera. You want to enrich your data so that ideally before you start any campaign, you have the data that matters for a drop note, a physical address, an email, their email address, the phone number for the telemarketing piece, their social, right? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, to bring them into your network, so that you know that any prospect who's going to be enrolled in any campaign is going to be able to be touched across multiple channels. Very, very important. If you screw that up, you're just going to wind up buying new lists. You're going to wind up wasting your time on bad leads, and you're going to damage your brand. You're going to damage your business. So the the next piece is making sure that you test and scrub the data before launching any campaign, right? So get your prospect list however you get it, right? Make sure that you enrich it so that you have all of the data, and then you can scrub the data. Offhand, some tools that are pretty good for verifying data, especially with email, and to make sure that you don't get bounces. We see a lot of people trying to send emails to prospects they don't know from their own company domain. That's a mistake. We can spend another lunch and learn on why that is. But tools that we like: Webula, Kickbox, Bright Verify, Email Hunter, Get Prospect. There are a ton out there that will help verify. Voila Norbert is another one that will help verify all of the data that you collect and put into your outreach campaign. How to keep track of this? Once you have all of this, ideally you're using a CRM, right? I'm not going to go into the CRM right now. It's not a lunch and learn topic, but this whole process should be on autopilot. Ideally, you have this set up so that when you click on a prospect, you see where they came from. You see what activity they've had. On my phone, for example, if a prospect engages with an email, I get a pop-up so I can call them when they're engaging with the email, right? In the moment that they're interested, when they're opening or clicking the email. Again, not going to go into a CRM, but if you're using a CRM, if you're thinking about a CRM, the biggest failure point for any CRM is just lack of adoption. So keep it simple, right? Don't get into a CRM that's going to overwhelm you, push you away. It's going to overwhelm your employees if you have an office or a boutique. You want to make sure that you're limiting the functionality to what you're going to use, and then repeat, execute. That is everything with the CRM. So that's it. That's the first lunch and learn back. Again, we try to stay on one point. My point today is if you have multiple efforts going on, if you have multiple vendors, think about how that's all connected and whether you can maybe get those vendors on a phone call, right? So if you have multiple vendors and you really like your telemarketer, you really like your email, you really like your CRM provider, maybe you can get them all on and have them as your team, right? I mean, you're paying them. Most vendors will do that. Hop on a team, see how you can coordinate your respective efforts. But when you have overlap, it's dangerous, especially if you're in a geographic territory where you might be sending mixed messaging. And then if you're dealing with bad data, you're going to waste a ton of time. That's something we see every day. So that's it. That's all I've got today. Wow, I'm seeing a lot of congratulations on vacation. That's that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I know I was overdue for vacation. Any questions relevant to the lunch and learn? Happy to answer. Otherwise, we'll be back next week, and we'll focus on something, whatever you guys want, right? You're going to get the same questionnaire at the end of the Zoom. So please answer, thumbs up, thumbs down. We're doing a good job. And what topics would you like us to cover, if any areas where you're feeling that you're behind on the social selling process, on online deal origination? Happy to help. I'm seeing, again, lots of vacation questions, so I'm not going to go into those here. So why don't we just call it, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.